Hey, sixth graders. So hopefully by now you watched that quick little video that I posted on Google Classroom. That's about quantitative and qualitative data or observations and how to identify the difference between them and make quantitative observations and make qualitative observations. So the key difference between the two of them is quantitative observations are where you're dealing with numbers and specific measurements. Okay, so I can remember that because the word quantity is kind of the root word for quantitative, and when we're talking about quantity, we're talking about the amount of something, and when we're dealing with amounts, that's numbers. Okay, so quantitative data is always going to involve numbers, and qualitative data, qualitative observations, those are just going to be descriptions of things. Okay, so we're talking about color, textures, like how something feels. We're using our senses for those, but they're not going to be involving numbers. Okay, so what I'm going to do in this video is go through 5 different items with you, and your job is to record observations that I make or observations that you make in this video, and you're going to record those observations onto Google Classroom. And you're going to identify whether those observations are quantitative or qualitative observations. Okay. And again, like I said, I'll be making observations myself. If there's anything that you notice, go ahead and throw those in there on the Google Classroom. That'd be fine. So my suggestion, maybe have a separate tab open with this video and then another one with Google Classroom so you can kind of pause as you go, and you won't have to watch this 15 million times because I'm sure you'll get tired of my voice eventually. All right, I promise it will not. It will happen. If not today, it will at some point. So we're gonna go ahead. We'll start with item one, and item one I'll show you guys real quick. It's this guy right here. It kind of. I'm gonna turn it around. It's kind of shiny, and to me, it kind of looks like metal. Right? It's metallic, gray, silvery. There are some spots that are orange or red or yellow or whatever kind of color you want to call that. And what are you noticing as far as the shape? It kind of looks like a square. Some points are kind of cubic. The light reflects nicely off of it. Um, so those are some things that I'm observing with my eyes. Okay, but observations, they're not just visual observations. Sometimes we want to get specifics, okay, specific measurements. So I'm going to go ahead. I have a scale here. I know you can't see it, but I'm going to go ahead and find the mass. Okay, mass is pretty much the same thing as weight. There's a little minor differences. We won't get into that, but we're going to call it mass. And when we find mass, we are going to be measuring using the unit grams. All right. You may or may not have heard of that unit before, but in this class we'll be using grams. We'll hardly ever say pounds or ounces or things like that. We always say grams. And I have this guy on a scale, and it is saying that it's 130 grams. So that's pretty stinking heavy, okay, for something this size. 130 grams. Um, that's heavy. And I want to keep in mind, again, that is a number, 130 grams. Dealing with numbers, so what kind of observation would that be? Okay, let's make that. Let's record that. Next, I'm going to find out the length of this. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and I'll use my ruler for this. I'll set it down, and it looks like at its longest point it's just over 1 inch, so I might call it 1 1/4 inches long with the length. All right, so that should be enough for item one. We'll keep this rolling here. Item two, most of you guys may have seen this before. All right, this is called fool's gold. Fool's gold. And I'm going to move it around, and I'll let you guys go ahead and make your own observations as I go through here. It doesn't feel very heavy. Now let's think about it. If I say this is heavy, is that going to be quantitative or qualitative? Yeah, it's not a specific measurement, okay? So it would be qualitative. We're not dealing with numbers. Okay? So you can see what the color is, kind of how the light reflects off of it. It's kind of shiny, kind of sparkly. Looks like gold, but it's not. It's way cheaper. That's why I have it. All right. Now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get some specific measurements. So I'm going to put this on our scale here. This is 38 grams. 38 grams, so way lighter than item one, right? Like 4 times lighter. What else? Let's find the length of this guy. So I'm going to set my ruler, and what's really frustrating for me, guys, is I got to figure out how to get this camera not in reverse, okay? Because right now you're seeing everything backwards. And I'm going to try and figure that out because this is frustrating for me and I know it's frustrating for you. But anyways, I'm going to set this guy down here and looks like it's about an inch long. So we'll call it an inch. All right, an inch at its longest point. Item 3. It's a cool one. Okay, look how flat that is. All right, and if I get it in light, it's kind of shiny, kind of reflects the light. Look at that. Really reflects the light. Looks kind of yellow. I know it's kind of hard to see when the light's kind of reflecting off of it, but it is yellow. Really flat and smooth at the top. Perfectly flat. If I wanted to, I could actually start peeling layers off of this and it'll just peel off. Pretty cool. All right, let's find the mass here. So I'm coming up with 4 grams. All right, so super stinking light. All right, and you can imagine it's pretty small, pretty thin, kind of looks like paper, right? Except for this little bump at the bottom, which would be why it's super light. So 4 grams, I believe, is what I said. Oh, and let's find the length. Let's find the length here. Get my ruler again, and I'm going to find the longest point. So we'll start here. I know you guys can't see it. I'm sorry. But we're looking at about an 1.25 inches to an 1.5 inches. I would probably call it 1.5 inches. Cool. And then last one. This is a really cool one. All right. Again, similar to item 1, it kind of looks metallic, kind of silverish gray, reflects the light real good. It's kind of round actually, but what I'm starting to notice, I don't know if you can see this, it's really smooth and slippery on my fingers. Can you see what it's doing to my fingers? I don't know if you can tell, but if I rub it, it's coming right off of my finger. And I'll actually get a piece of paper here. Okay, so I know there's kind of some words on the back, I'm sorry, but if I go ahead and do this, look at that. The reason it does that, this is the same thing that's in your pencils. All right, so what they do is they kind of carve this down to a long rod and then they put wood around it so it doesn't get messy and smear onto your fingers when you're writing. But this is the same stuff that's in your pencils. Same exact thing, okay? So it's really soft, really slippery, kind of greasy, smooth, things like that. I'm going to go ahead and get some specific measurements for you guys. So as far as mass goes, it is 26 grams. So probably about average mass. And then the length of this guy, we are looking at, once I set this on here, about 1.5 inches, okay? About 1.5 inches there. So, my fingers are, I gotta wash my hands after this. Okay, so I just made various observations, some of them quantitative, some of them qualitative. So on Google Classroom, there's gonna be a thing that will probably say item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5. And you're going to have to record different observations that I made and different observations that you made and identify whether or not they're quantitative or qualitative observations. Okay, because all throughout the school year this year, we're going to be making observations of different things, and it's going to be important to distinguish whether or not these observations are considered quantitative or qualitative. All right. That'll be it. So go ahead, get that submitted onto Google Classroom. And awesome, and you guys will hear back from me tomorrow. Sweet.